to attend on full stomach. And what better a topic than engaging Gen Z beyond likes and scrolls. And we have someone amongst us who's in the middle of all this chaos. So it's an absolute delight to introduce our dynamic speaker, Mr. Vijay Anand Kunduri.
Thank you. Thank you all.
He's currently MD Asia Pacific at Dailymotion. He's a seasoned global media and digital executive with over 2 decades of experience across print, TV, CTV, OTT, AdTech, and MarTech. He is leading strategic growth, digital innovation, and audience engagement currently in his current role. Prior to relocating to Singapore back in 2012, Dr. Kunduri held senior leadership roles with prestigious media organizations, including the Cyber Media and Network 18. During his tenure at Network 18, he played a pioneering role in shaping India's digital advertising ecosystem. Just to name a few, he was launching the country's first ad-funded live desktop video feed on moneycontrol.com in 2006, and also first ad-funded online music streaming platform in .com/music back in 2008. Since moving to Singapore, he has worked in companies across Asia Pacific region, including Carnatic, News UK, Nexon, just to name a few. Dr. Vijay holds a doctorate in business administration from the Swiss School of Business and Management. He is also an alum of SMBs, Singapore Management University, and MIT. He is actively associated with global industry bodies like IIM, SEA and India, IIM Australia and New Zealand, and ACMA. He has also won CMO Asia Digital Excellence Award and Group MD Singapore Media Person of the Year Award. So today he is among us to help us understand the paradox, the enigma of Gen Z. He is going to make us move beyond vanity metrics and help us understand how to break that 30-second attention span. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Vijay.
Thank you, Bhavya. Thank you, Bhavya, for that kind words. Good afternoon. I hope you had a delicious lunch. Now, it's kind of paradox, not only Gen Z, that a Gen Y talking about Gen Z. That's one. In KPO, in the BPO world, we know there is something called graveyard shift, which is that 3 a.m., 4 a.m. when everyone is feeling sleepy, they loan attention. And when you do conferences, this is that graveyard shift, right after the lunch. And it's so, but I think it's a good segue because we're talking about attention, and that really puts my neck on the block. But having said that, before I get started, just to get a sense, what verticals or sectors is everyone from, so that I know Gen Z is important to everyone, but every sector has the nuances, and probably we'll try to do it more relevant for you as we go along. But is anyone from FMCG in this? Okay. Is anyone from travel? Okay. Hospitality, B2B manufacturing, agrotech. Okay, we have probably, and any more which I missed? Education. Oh yeah, that's the bedrock of everything we do. Finance. Okay, I'm sure in each of the sectors we have to reach out and engage with Gen Zs who are becoming an enigma, as a different potential, as a talent resource, as a consumer, or probably even as a future partner. You don't know how things pan out, right? The biggest thing is about Gen Zs, it's a myth or it's an enigma. We're just going to find it out, right? How many of you watch Insta Reels? Okay. How many of you watch YouTube Shorts? Okay. How many of you in India doesn't have TikTok? How many of you watch content on Moj? No? Okay, the India or Share Chat? Okay, fine. So if you look at it, your consumption is not very different than Gen Z. You guys are doing something what is similar to Gen Z does, but there's an enigma what we call is Gen Z. Now, one of the things is how do we really engage them to go beyond the likes, the shares, the swipes, or the thumb rule, what we keep saying, right? It's a rule of the thumb, what we consume, what we like, what we don't like. But it's also about how do we really break it. Now, if you really want to have 10x growth in next 10 years, that's the theme, isn't it? How do we really do that? Because the current way of thinking is not going to help us get there. They always say the team that wins you the World Cup is not the team which gets you to the World Cup. It's a process, right? And this is exactly what we are here. What it calls for next 10 years, the 10x growth is a radical new way of thinking, of engaging the audiences. And that's what we're going to take the journey in next couple of slides. Please bear with me. If it gets, please, we do have a Q&A, but in between there is questions, feel free to ask me as we go along, right? So, okay, the scroller, there you go. How many of you have heard the word content shock? Okay, each one of us are experiencing this. Today, we have a deluge of content coming our way. Every morning we get up, whether it's family WhatsApp group from Good Mornings, to the scrolls, the tweets, the Reddit, the emails, the offline, the online. The term content shock was first coined back on January 6, 2014 by Mark Sheffer. He did an interesting research. He's an academician in Rutgers Business School, and he did an interesting research. And he figured out that as a user, each one of us are exposed to 27 million pieces of content on a daily basis. 27 million pieces of content back in 2014. Now fast forward a decade now, we're talking about double that. Now this content is coming to us not only in form of conscious but unconscious observation. It's outdoor, it's your tweets, it's your shares, messages, everything falls into that piece of content that comes our way. The challenge is human mind can absorb that little bit. Right? After a point of time, there's a blank spot. And that's where it gets difficult for each one of us in this room when we put on our professional hats to get over this clutter, to be heard, to be understood, and more importantly, we retain that. And that's exactly is what the content shock is all about. If content shock wasn't enough, what we have is, there you go. Again, a decade back, there was a popular theory which came out. We all seen this goldfish, which was said that human memory is less than of a goldfish, right? That was 10 years back. Unfortunately, then smartphones happened. I don't know whether they're smart, they made us smarter or they made us dumb, it's a jury out there. I call mobile the 79th organ of human body. There are 78 major and minor organs in human body. Mobile has become our 79th organ. We get up in the middle of night, first thing we reach out is mobile, and that's your 79th organ. Unfortunately for me, I think it's not necessarily making us smarter the way we should have anticipated. And what has resulted is, of course, the fleeting attention span, which has now come down from 9 seconds to 8 seconds. And you have to get your message across in 8 seconds. So that's another challenge there. Does this make sense? Or if anyone has another perspective, happy to hear that. But on that note, this is where the attention crisis, or what's being called as attention crisis, which has been put out there by all market research or the experts in the field saying, hey, we have a challenge because if you have to get across our messaging across and we want them to be consumers of our product, or there is that attention paucity with them. With 8 seconds, how can you cut through that clutter? The thing is, is it visible? Okay, sorry for the coloring. So the challenge today is we are following the same old traditional way of advertising. We still prefer the broadcast one-way form of communication or the medium, which is two-way. So we still find brands speaking over the users than actually listening to them. The second one is about interruption versus versus interaction. Interruption. Today, when you're watching something, an ad comes in. It's an interruption, it's disruptive. The fact of the matter is today's generation, even including you and me, want to be heard, we want to interact, and that's also is a challenge with these younger generation who's been born and brought up in this small screen ecosystem. The other one is, sorry about this. Yeah. Now, when we are in this room, when we're looking at the medium and small medium enterprises, how do they really, do we have big pockets to start putting deep pockets to start over shouting the bigger players? Or we need to be smarter about it? How do we can really start taking it without really breaking the bank or giving an arm and leg? And how do we get over what is called the bird theory or passing the bird? The passing the bird is essentially where the male bird is supposed to keep feeding the family and shows the influence over the family. This term and this behavior has been borrowed by the social media, and it's called bird theory, because the social medias, when you're on the social media, keeps feeding you reels, the content, and the algorithm decides what you consume and starts influencing your thought. So essentially, that's the bird theory. What was supposed to be a theory from a biological or ecological thing has now transformed into the ecosystem of social media. With all that thing happening, do you think is it a very recent phenomenon? How many of you think the attention or averseness to ads is recent? Before that, people were attentive. Before the social media, sorry, you had something?
I agree with the initial thought that you had, that recently this thought has been developed that it's an distraction.
Yeah.
Previously, at least in our parent generation, when it was a genuine thought, the ads were 1.5 minutes of long.
Yeah.
But people still watch them attentively.
Okay. And what about your generation?
So I feel it's a distraction.
Sorry, what was that?
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction. Ad is a distraction. Okay. Anyone else? I think your parent generation, even my generation, and I don't know what, they see ad as distraction. But how many of others in this room feel ad as a distraction?
Not a distraction. There were no other options available that time.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point to have. But the ads dissonance existed even before internet. I'll give you a context. In the newspaper, I'm sure still a lot of us maybe still subscribing to newspapers. The first thing we do is and get all the leafers or flyers out.
Yes.
Right? Okay? The cable TV or the generation which grew up on satellite TV, whenever the ad break came, we reached out for the remote control and channel surfed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or for that matter, the younger generation who grew up on YouTube, as soon as ads end, you started looking for a skip button. So the reality is, as a humans, we are always averse to interruption because you want to consume a content, something comes in your way which doesn't make sense for you, and we think, oh, this is a recent phenomena. This phenomenon existed with every generation. It played out in a different screen and a different environment, but it always existed. So if it always existed, what is the Gen Z paradox? Okay? There's a popular belief that Gen Z hate ads or they hate brands. The reality of matter is that Gen Z don't hate brands, they don't hate ads, they really dislike being sold to. Now, how does that make a difference? Because we are in a business of communication. I need to advertise to get the unit, either brand awareness go up or my unit sales to happen. So how is this paradox and how do I really counter that? And this is where it starts to happen. Gen Zs look for authenticity and something they can connect with. Okay? So what does it mean? They're not really taken by a fancy and a polished ad, a lavish ad. They're really taken by the authenticity with the content they can relate. Is it a statement or is there a stats to prove it? Well, they always say the numerical numbers are always gives you credence and credibility. This is based on a recent survey. 77% of Gen Z believe that advertising should embody the value of the product And it's also, if they lose the trust on the brand, if they see it's fake, they can't relate to it. Sorry, yeah, come. So if they find the advertisement you're doing, anything you're doing is fake, is superficial, doesn't have anything, okay, gone are the days. I think I recall there was let's say a pan masala ads. Usually you'll think having a pan masala makes you a superpower and you can start doing it. It's probably works with certain segment, but the reality of the matter is doesn't work because everyone knows it's a fantasy land. That's one example. If you step back and look back into history and even current communication, there's quite a few over-the-top advertising, which doesn't necessarily mean that the unit sales are moving or the product is flying off the shelves. The other is, the other thing is in the era where it's mobile first, is internet generation which grew up on internet. Internet is a two-way communication as work is back in the day when broadcast was one way. And in a world when you have these Gen Zs are hungry for be inclusive as against interruption. You make them inclusive instead of ads being interruptive. You make them inviting, the game changes. They're hungry for engagement. And without taking, I think I personally do have a bit of a discomfort with keyboard warriors. The keyboard warriors are there, but the fact of the matter, these generation has been brought up, they're far more, far more explicit or expressive about their feelings. So in a generation which wants to be included in a social first environment, it's probably a recipe for disaster. You're still using the old world one-way communication. There it is. So if your content is good, relatable and authentic, they're not only happy to engage with it, they're more than happy to share. One of the best forms of any advertising is word of mouth or advocacy. When I share a content with someone else, that content gets the benefit of my goodwill. And that's how, in this room, you see an ad coming to you and the same ad being shared by a friend, you're most likely to consume ad when shared by a friend, that ad coming directly to you. Or if a friend refers you a travel agent, you're most likely to consider him favorably as compared to that same ad coming to you. So if you one of the things we forget when we start getting into marketeers is we start thinking as marketeers, but we forget that we are consumers too. Put on the consumer hat, the journey starts to look very differently. The last point is, if you're looking at 10x growth, right? One of the things we need to start doing is move away from the passive viewership or passive interruptions to be more towards the active participation. Now, what do you mean by participation? These are good to put it out there, but in the subsequent slides, I'm going to walk you through how we can do it by doing very small changes to what you're existingly doing. You don't have to, yes, you need to look at differently. You need to have a new approach to it, but doesn't mean you need to start building from the bottom up. And this is where another data point comes. 81% of Gen Z wouldn't mind an ad, or at the same time, they would like to see an ad as long as it's relevant. So if I had to sum it up in terms of, there are three things of effective advertising you have to look at it. You need to have an effective content, or what is called creative intelligence. Second is create intelligent audience targeting. And then is, of course, how do you close the loop, which is the measurable KPIs. That's what it's all about. When you saw this, that, hey, if you want to be authentic, but what are the certain do's and don'ts based on a lot of content, data analysis or strategy advisory we've done. One of the things is when you make content connect emotionally at the very few seconds, you will stick with it or you'll skip. The first 5 seconds becomes a lot more important, and human brain decides whether you're going to watch the content. And if people say attention span for Gen Z is 8 seconds or even diminishing, it's an absolute nonsense, sorry for my term here, But then Netflix should have shut its business. The binge watching shouldn't be happening. You watch binge watching, hours of binge watching. Again, if my attention and retention span is too short, 8 seconds, the Netflix of the world or the OTTs or whatever content we consume on binge shouldn't be happening, because you have a connect going there. The other thing is interesting is if you make humor is the emotion which is the easiest to do. You can make someone laugh out loud in 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Then of more complex emotions of warmth, happiness, pride, and all. If you can bring in humor, it doesn't have to force fit a humor, but if you can bring in, that also increases the people's attentive. Also, don't make your ads too complex, too suspense, because हमें तो अच्छा लगता है suspense दिखाऊं, but ads के लिए suspense is a sure shot, people reaching out, because what happens is the cognitive load on the demand happens on the brain. We'll address that, because when you're creating ads, there are neuroscience signals which goes in. There are 18 emotions which a human mind processes. They're primal, they're emphatic, cognitive, and non-emphatic. All these emotions work, but there are 4 neuroscience signals which we should be looking at when we are creating a branded communication, and which we'll touch upon in a bit. But on that note, I'm going to pause in a minute. If you guys are with me, if there's anything you want to ask, happy to address. No? Okay. Now, I told you, what's do's and what's don'ts. But the problem is, when we are creating any content for anyone, we have this, yaar, ek acha idea mil jaye, which I call is tyranny of one big idea. Oh, that's a silver bullet. Ye ad will do wonders for me. The reality of matter is, the tyranny of big idea, if you can move the next slide. I just realized, I thought my clicker was working, but you were the magic behind, okay? The one tyranny of big idea, we do a brand brief, there's a time, money, effort goes in, and then we say, oh, I have one big idea. There's a clicker on that video, okay. Yeah. If you go on to the image, yeah. So you have then one big idea, and you said, this is it. I have one silver bullet, everything will start moving. There's a lot of effort that goes into it in a generation which is just about 8 seconds. But the reality of the matter is, today, in the world of AI is outperforming human creativity. If you move to the next slide, please. Human creativity by over 200,000 ROI. Now, this is an example. There is the logo of Heinz. Heinz the CMO was actually working on Sora, and he wanted to typed the word ketchup. When they typed ketchup, all these images showed up. Most of them resembled Heinz proprietary bottle, right? And he said, okay, fine, this is what, and then they ran this campaign saying, this is what ketchup looks to AI. Very simple and to the point. This campaign became a case study and had about 2,500 up ROI percentage in terms of its ROI. But does that mean that we need to start talking about moving to AI? The answer is no. How do we really counter this? I'm going to share some of the things, and of course there are a lot of tools out there. Feel free to tool which fits your requirement, whether you're looking at Sora, Copilot, or host of content creating apps. There are enough out there. I'm just sharing some of the framework which we do as a company, but at the same time, please, there are enough apps out there, and if there's something you want to connect after on, I'm happy to share that. But there's a 3-step framework we really put it out there, having working this field. The first is democratic creativity. It's gone are the days where you're saying, oh, one big idea, you see in the cost benefit ratio goes out of this. How do we do that? This is where you start using the tools provided by AI to help the heavy lifting of it. Please don't discount the power of human intellect. It's always going to be there. I always say, earlier in IT, we used to have the term called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. That term still exists because the quality of the response the AI would give will depend upon the prompt you give. So never ever think AI is going to replace humans. It's a skill set you need to evolve to start harnessing to do the heavy lifting for you. but the strategy would be otherwise. Every one of you would have a same strategy because AI is giving you the same set of references. But the input will make the difference, and your intellect will start making a difference between the strategy or one for all. The second one is conversational experience. Today, the journey is, हम एक ad देखते हैं, उसको देखने के बाद या तो हम phone करेंगे या click करेंगे, then we are connected. We will go to, अगर car का है तो we go to offline showroom, do a test drive. There's a long journey, what is called in marketing, part to purchase, right? They are sequential. But today that sequence is gone. Everything comes down, content to consumption and part to purchase it from the point of interaction. Thus, everything happens instead of in sequential order, it today happens at one go. And that is where the blending of creativity and AI has come into play, where you start making your ads conversational experience. Your customer service happens right in your ad rather than offline. And the third is intelligent outcome, because we are taken by likes. What does like really do for your business? It's a vanity metric. Itne views aage, great, but how is it helping you with the business objectives? Because we are in the business of using our ads, our display ads, our static, any content we do to drive their sales, right? The revenue. And you have to start moving away from being vanity metrics, but get obsessed about the outcomes. How can we do that? It's pretty easy. One of the things is that start scaling your content without really putting a lot of cost. There are enough tools out there where we can help you build the professional content at fraction of the cost. Professional content which helps you use your content for different languages, so you can be local but you can go global or global, whatever works for you. Native languages, you don't have to dub and everything. You can make your static, there's a clear evidences where video sells you more. Even on your website, you can use the images and you can just convert into video. And you can actually start seeing how. Mojo is one of the products you can of course try, but there are enough products out there which does it. So what it does, it takes your heavy lifting and you can start putting a lot of your effort in your strategizing and doing it, and cuts down the cost. It cuts down your time and time to market. This is where the game starts changing. This is conversational ads. This is product which of course I'm taking a bit of a thing. This is a product which is patented by us, where we brought in AI into the creativity. We train AI and AI becomes your 24/7 customer care. For example, this is an actual case study. If you can play the video. This is for Toyota. Can you just play the ad, please? Yeah. Yeah. This is an ad which runs as a typical pre-roll. You can click there. Once you start, click, it opens an AI prompt. Everything is trained by the brand documents. Everything is trained by brand approved tonality. The user can start having a conversation just like a customer service. This is different than the LOMs and virtual assistants, because virtual assistants are defined questions. This is questions. Each one of us in this room may ask a question, but in a different, paraphrasing. It starts helping you. It starts helping you to understand on the fly when the campaign is happening, what are the features people are asking. So if you're in travel, you can start understanding which are the sectors people are using more, and you can start focusing on that. Or from FMCG, you start looking at our education. Depending upon the subject the people are asking more, you can start having very focused communication to the people, because please realize Gen Z is all about relativity rather than posting and praying. So it's moving away from traditional ways of advertising to something which is more dynamic, more inclusive, and more engaging, because you are asking these questions and you are able to get to the extent that you can have a very detailed analysis of what people are seeking, and then it becomes a part of your entire thing. It can be lead gen, it can be whatever KPIs you're looking at. And then why it helps. This is where, again, the blend of technology comes into it. It's a localization at scale. You can start doing over 50 languages if you want to target internationally. English is not the only language. There are local, hyper-local languages different nationalities speak. Today, can we afford a translator to do that? The answer is no. The cost goes up. AI helps you to do that. Even, for example, if you're doing, and your market is in Bihar, you don't necessarily have to do Hindi. You can do Bhojpuri. If you're doing in Tamil Nadu, you can do the same creative, but you can do in Tamil. That's how you start bringing the scale. The other thing is, once you start building and engaging with the audiences in their language, which is native, you build that trust and confidence because they say, oh, I understand what they say and they understand me as a consumer. And these are smaller things. It's not that you need to reinvent the wheel. Aapka wahi asset hai, but you're using the same asset for the campaigns you're looking for, the objectives you're running, and the market you're doing for. And this is where only the first part of the game is. This is about your content. And they say content is king, right? But today, this king has many kingdoms. Because this kingdom is your mobile, your desktop, your tablet, and of course your CTV, your digital OH. This king has many kingdoms. And do you have a strategy different for them? The answer is no. It's the same you. But it's also about, do we post and pray कि अच्छा hope करते हैं कि हमारे relevant audience को मिल गया. But today you need to understand your right audiences and start going after this. And this is where you start helping, making it personal, making it relevant, and breaking that clutter. On this, this is where today you've been hearing about agentic platforms. Everyone is coming with the agentic platform because that really crunches everything for you. Whether you're bringing in the data sets, you're bringing in the collective intelligence and helping you everything. What probably would have taken a week in less than a second, depending on the data, the network speed. But that's how you start changing the game. And these are data points, these are tools. Use them as the tools and don't think they're going to replace the humans. These tools will make your work because then it takes away from the heavy workload of heavy lifting and it does the major workload for you. Then you can start focusing on the more strategy, more creative, and all the business expansion strategies you want to do. And this is where an example of what you call an agentic platform would do. How many of you understand what is an agentic platform? Have you heard this term, agentic platform? Okay, I'll just quickly, this is a term you'll keep hearing. जब भी आप कोई AI के ऊपर बात करेगा वो agentic platform word ज़रूर use करेगा. It's nothing, it's जैसे essentially what you do, जैसे हमारे organization में या किसी भी organization में you have specialized people. They would do one job and do one job only. That's your super specialization. On AI, you create that as an agent, an AI agent. So for any task, you would create multiple agents who will do only one job, and that's super specialization. On top of it, there is a person called AI supervisor who will start understanding and start giving you saying, yeah, you have to use number 11 as an agent. Your job is to do this, and after that, the number 10 will take over. He will start distributing the jobs. And just like any organization structure, there is an AI orchestrator on the top who is the top boss, who understands the two-line brief and breaks it down into the task and says, kin agents ko meko use karna hai. So in this room, in an agentic platform, all of us could be agents, but all of us may not be working at the same time. We will do that based on the task defined by the AI orchestrator, broken down to AI supervisor, and he will switch on and switch off the agents, and that's an agentic platform. If collectively whatever we all do will take time, the agentic platform will take in minutes. That doesn't mean our work is redundant, because it frees away from a lot of manual work, heavy lifting, but it starts giving us opportunity to start looking more analytical or more strategic work, right? This is an example of an agentic platform. Again, please, this is not any way trying to promote my product. This is just a demonstration of Ray. So Ray, can you just play on that video? Yeah, there's a video there. Yeah. So this is how the interface would look. You just go, if you want to start engaging a Gen Z, you just need to put in a brief. And this is an example we were doing for shoe campaign called ASICS. they were trying to do a running campaign. It suddenly starts giving you entire brief and strategy. You can refine your inputs rather than going and drafting it, everything. You can refine it, and based on that, it will also start giving you the topics which are relevant for your audiences. Not all topics are relevant. लगता है shoe है तो shoe पे होना चाहिए. It's not. But what it does, it starts going down. It gives you the relevant topics. It gives you hyper personalized personas who are relevant for your brand. आप दोनों एक ही product होंगे. If you're an educational institute, you're into teaching SAT, coaching for SAT or any other company. The audiences could be anyone who is a kid in grade 11 and 12. But your approach will be very different than their approach, and your audiences could be very different than every other audience. While on the superficial level, it could be the same. It starts helping you that. Then you start doing what is called digital twin. You start actually having conversation with that person to say, how could I sell you? Okay? This looks futuristic, but the fact is it's happening now. In fact, yesterday, Bhavya and I did that. I showed the demo, live demo. If any one of you want to drive demo, I can do it offline. And she did that. She did give me a brief for, you want to talk about?
The night we sat and we did that.
Yeah.
It was amazing. We were done in 10 minutes and we were brainstorming like who would, buy the digital twin. How can I sell it? The person was telling me that, okay, sell me this way. It was amazing.
I'll show you that. And then the creative. As I said, there are 4 important things when you're doing a video creative. The 4 neuroscience signals: focus, cognitive demand, your memory, and which was the last one? Focus. Missing one more. The focus, cognitive demand, engagement, and others. The 4 are mutually exclusive. Now, focus is हम लोगों ने ad बनाया, लोग focus कर रहे हैं. That the darker the spot is, the focus, more focused people are. But the point is, अगर लोग focus कर रहे हैं, doesn't mean वो आपके content पे attentive हैं. Focus can mean 2 things. Either the knowledge coming through या confusion है. क्योंकि हम confused हैं तब भी हम बहुत ज़्यादा focus करते हैं. That correlates to memory. Is people are able to recall the brand and the brand messaging. अगर बहुत कुछ हो रहा होगा, that is called cognitive demand, because human brains still can't process too many things. In that process, your memory will impact your brand recall and the engagement. All this work towards making a creative. Now, this is an example of S6 I showed. Can you just play that video on the left? The original copy was this. Yeah. As you can see, the ad shows ad ka beginning mein logo aaya. Uske baad the focus is only on the models running. Hardly anyone is looking at the A6 brand. This can be for any shoe, right? And their objective was awareness and target the runners and all that. We ran through the AI. Can you just go back, sorry, for a minute? Yeah. And we ran this. Just run it. Yeah, play this. The entire thing you start seeing, because the objective was to create the brand value, everything AI helps you do it on the campaign objectives, and it starts working towards the KPIs of the same asset. You're not recreating assets, but you're making it. Asset is just the same. You do the deployment, whether आप social feed पे करते हो या आप TV पे करते हो, the objective is just the same. You're using the same asset, but you're using every asset as a role. A 5-seconder is sell. It's a response and reminder. A 15 or a 30-seconder is about awareness. A 30 to 45-seconder or a 1 minute, as someone said, is about advocacy. All have a role to play. आप जब भी देखोगे, there is another study which is called Benetton Field study, which says in a campaign, 60% of your budget should go towards the branding and 40% should go towards your hard sell or sales. Now, how do you do that? Because there's another story, Byron Sharp's, that people buy because of the memory structures. A shampoo is a shampoo. An institute is an institute. What one goes to, a travel agent is a travel agent, or an airline is an airline. What makes one choose one airline or the other, or one shampoo or the other, is the memory structures and how the brand recall happens. So everything is interlinked, and when you start putting it into the consumers, none of us are different. It's just that we start perceiving as Gen Z hai, Gen X hai, Gen Y hai. The next generation is Gen Alpha. The problem will remain the same. It's native to us. And this is why it is important. It gives you 26 hours back to you per week. more importantly, you're looking at, when you look at these strategy adoptions, you're bringing in about 70% on the campaign ROIs, your efficiency boost, so that you're focusing more on your strategy and creatives rather than doing the groundwork on how do we make it happen. But what's more important is storytelling. You need to make storytelling localized. Can you just go back for a minute, please? Sorry. You have to scale it up. And more importantly, you have to optimize to the outcomes. Please don't get carried away. कि इतने views आए, इतने likes आए, they mean nothing. They're vanity. The time your measurement becomes a KPI, it's no longer a measurement. Please realize that. And this is where the game changes. What's bringing in next as we move forward. 10x is not a numeric number. If you really want to get 10x in next 10 years, it calls for the mindset change. It calls for new way of thinking, moving away from conversation, moving to conversation from interruption, moving away from saying, hey, I don't look at AI because it might replace me. No, AI is an enabler. Use it to amplify, and you are putting your more efforts on more strategic working to make it better for you. And last but this important is to make the transition from likes to link. The time you create more meaningful conversation with the brand, they will be not only be engaging with you, but they will also be your spokesperson and goodwill ambassador for your brand. So on that note, I invite and I really urge all of you to start thinking beyond the vanity metrics. Stop thinking about 5, 15, 30 second. Think about moving towards having the meaningful conversation. And I think the journey starts today. So start thinking about attention. Attention is nothing. It's all of us in this room. I'm speaking to you. If I make sense to you, you will be listening to me. If I'm not making sense to you, you will be there physically, but mentally you might be somewhere else, right? So that's on me, not on you as a consumer. That's on me as a content creator. So if by the end of this, I find, except for, okay, Prashant is awake now, which is great. Halfway through, I lost him. So that's, again, my content wasn't relevant for him then. But the fact of the matter is, this is no different. Gen Z is no different. You just need to start taking a step back and make content for them and make it participative, native, interactive, and you already got their attention. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions you have. And thank you for your attention, the most important thing.
I think we can take 2 questions if we have time. 2 questions. Let's see how it is a little running. Yes, sir.
So the problem that I understand with engaging with the Gen Zs, like for my business case, I am into wealth management. So we advise investors from ask them to be long-term oriented, and the even millennials or even the older generation, baby boomers, they do it very well. But when it comes to Gen Z, they expect some instant gratification.
Yeah.
They want continuous excitement.
True.
And it must be true with other businesses also. Some doctors may be expecting long-term treatment.
Yeah.
So how do we mold their mind to make their instant gratification?
True.
So how do we
Yeah.
practically?
No, that's a good question. And the fact is, the instant gratification is what the younger generation has got used to, right? Because that's also the way we consume content, and that's all adds up to all this. Now, the fact of the matter is, probably the narrative or the communication you're still using is what was being used to generations, which was baby boomers, Gen Z, Gen Y, not Gen Z, Gen X and Gen Y, right? How are you saying, oh, ये मेरे पास है और मैं आपके लिए ये ला के दूंगा? Yeah, are you really asking what is your ambition, and then saying with your ambition, this is what I can bring it to you? See, when I was growing up, and even now, I'm still go for prescriptive way of saying, आप insurance ले लीजिए because आपको ये benefit होगा, आप ये ले लीजिए आपको ये benefit होगा, because that was a different time and age. Today, there's a rise of consumerism. A lot of youngsters believe in living in present than living in future. And as you said, instant gratification. In such cases, again, the promised land doesn't help. For them, okay, what are you trying to do? For them, they may not be looking at long-term strategy. They might be looking at maybe a shorter strategy to begin with. And are we first addressing what they want, or are we just selling what we want to sell? Right? So the question is, you might have a same content, video content, display, kuch bhi. But first of all, understand your consumer. Have you really heard them? Have you seen, what kind of social media assets do you have? आपका फेसबुक पेज है, इंस्टा पेज है, किसके बेसिस पे आप उनको रीच करते हैं आपके कंपनी में? ओके, यूट्यूब एंड लिंक्डइन. आपने यूट्यूब एंड लिंक्डइन में आप क्या करते हैं? ठीक है. सो हाउ आर यू डिफरेंट देन एनीवन एल्स? योर एजुकेशनल वीडियो इज सेम एज हंड्रेड्स ऑफ एजुकेशनल वीडियो आई हैव देयर, राइट? लिंक्डइन में मैंने अपना लिंक्डइन पोस्ट डाल दिया, देयर आर हंड्रेड्स ऑफ पोस्ट. हाउ आर यू डिफरेंट देन एनीवन एल्स? Right? If you just do a step back, or LinkedIn, or for that matter, your YouTube do give you enough analytics to start analyzing, and then start making it very even as simple as your headlining, which captures their attention, will help you understand, and you start seeing the difference in your engagement rates. Right? Today, आपका basis of again, अगर आप YouTube देख रहे हैं, आप views देखते होंगे as a parameter, right? और लिंक्डइन में आप क्या देखते हैं? Impressions. They're worth nothing. I can tell you there are enough. मैं एक blank screen भी चला दूं, you have 1000 impressions, you'll think people have seen it, but that's the blind spot. Because आपके साथ में और किसी का भी ad होगा. The same thing, what I'm just trying to say is, move away from the vanity metrics, just go one layer down to see what is that really the people are consuming. आपका YouTube channel है, आप YouTube के analytics से आप उठा सकते हैं कि what is this generation, this kind of content, what kind of similar content is being consumed. Based on that, आप अपने headline as simple as that, आपका title, metadata जो होता है, title description can be changed, which will capture their attention. Are you preparing for a SAT? Yes, I am. So what? Come join me. Why? That's your Gen Z. Why?
Next question then.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much for your wonderful session. So as you know, sir, in India, even in the remotest of corners today, content is being consumed. So I would like to know from you, based on your experience, are there any meaningful nuances between, the rural consumers of content and those in the urban centers in terms of, emotional triggers or in general anything in terms of consumption?
Yeah.
So any,
Sure. First of all, before I give you that answer, I also tell you the one big challenge which is coming up, which is content being created by, a lot of video content being created by what is called AI groks. You're using AI to create a lot of video content, and to capture the attention, you actually make really startling or something obnoxious content too, which can be something you may not like, to capture attention, right? Another flip side is, today the top 100 fastest growing channels on YouTube are all AI groks. AI groks lead to what is called AI sloth, which means आप starting में आपको you are taken by that brashness of that video, which is actually obscene or it can be non-acceptable, but जितना आप use होते जाओगे, that will become normalized. Okay, so that's a flip side of AI, so you need to do. Now, content is king. It's about, अगर आप रूरल मार्केट में भी देखते हैं या अर्बन मार्केट में भी देखते हैं, as long as you're connecting to the people, are you making it localized, it will resonate. A good content will saddle across rural or urban, will be the same because human connect है. The thing starts to change when you start trying to sell a product, then the differentiation starts coming. The rural requirement will be different than the urban requirement. So you need to start differentiating that what are you trying to go after. If you want to do, अगर sale है, तो you have to just say sale, sale, sale. There's no connection required, right? It's just a 5-second ad, or you can do a Facebook ad which counts a ad at 3 seconds. My personal opinion, you are better off with an animated GIF than putting a video ad on a Facebook. Okay, really, that's what it is. But on a reality is, if you are creating a content which is Gen Z जो नागपुर में है या or further down in Maharashtra किसे है, is just the same, because all of them today are exposed to the same level of global exposure and content, and probably I wasn't when I was growing up, and there was a differential between the tiers. The people in the metros or a town, towns have more aspirational and they want to get there. And the people who are in metros, they're also aspirational. So you're speaking to the people who are in a similar, this thing probably on town, they're not, they may have a different skill set, reference points. But when you're connecting them at a, what you call authenticity or authentic level, they will stick through. Otherwise, there are people who still watch a lot of crap, sorry for my term, the people who will watch a lot of good content. Good content will start it across all, whether it's village, metro, A town, B town, or whatever. Yeah. So you need to probably go back and see कि आप क्या present करना चाहते हैं and what is that requirement. That's how it changes. Again, goes back to what I just said. It's the same protocol whether you use an urban, but yeah, go local. So for example, if I was just a few days back, I was in Bihar, and in YouTube, वहाँ पे suddenly everything is in Bhojpuri.
One last question.
So,
One last question.
hi.
So I just wanted to ask you, a lot of homegrown brands have a very big difficulty of reaching out. Like we have smaller budgets and we still have to make impactful
Yeah.
communication. We have some, when you talk about having a meaningful conversation, you have an example of any homegrown brand that has done something really impactful and has made it.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of influencers or homegrown brands today are doing that, right? In fact, the best part of the social first approach is you don't need to rely on the traditional ways of brand building, right? I don't have offhand, but I can tell about a lot of home brands in markets like Thailand or Indonesia or Vietnam, where they have actually given run for money to a West established brand. A case in point is L'Oreal. L'Oreal, I'm sure all of you are aware of L'Oreal. Just before COVID, L'Oreal decided they're going to be focusing only on sales products and only focus on product sales, and rather than building brand. They did great, but 5 years down the line, they're revisiting there because they lost the brand equity, and their product is actually facing heat from homegrown influencers in each of these markets. Right? Because one of the things which really helps a homegrown brand or an influencer is the level of, I can relate to the content you're creating till the time you're not fake. People, please understand, each one of us are smart enough to understand what is fake and what is real. As long as you are coming across authentic, you're already, Insta is today the point in India standpoint. If you're outside of India, there's a TikTok, but Insta is one of the go-to markets for really creating cost-effective reach for you. And then you start looking at the similar trends, what's happening, and then start probably creating similar touch points for you. But the point is, if you're creating Insta, but please realize you need to create digital touch points. If I had to give you an example, we do have a stall out there, right? There are outdoor stalls. On internet, you're also in one stall out of many, but you need to drive people to your destination. You need to create touch points and entry points to say, here I am. That could be with the relevant content or nuggets of stuff you do, and you start bringing it in. And Insta becomes your mothership for everything you do. So every strategy can be done. Someone can use their website as their mothership and run everything around it. Someone might say, I use YouTube to do that. It's each to his own. But the fact of the matter is, if that's the reason of success of so many influencers. Today, the influencers are because she is, or he or she is just next door neighbor, and I can connect to him more than probably a celebrity. So, does that answer your question?
Actually, I was more interested in the narrative than the medium, maybe Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Maybe you can correct us.
Yeah, let me know. I can then probably understand it better and go down deeper. But medium is one, the communication is another. So which part of thing you're looking at, we can just probably have a conversation.
Storytelling aspect, and I was trying to understand what really sets apart, because we have limited money. And
Sure. So since you're saying storytelling is important, please understand all brands, like a painter has palette of colors to paint a picture, the brands should also have palette of emotions. So you own an emotion. Now, for example, when you look at automobile ads, they own the emotions of exhilaration, aspiration, and glamour. When you look at female beauty products, they use skincare products. They use the emotions of warmth, mild sadness, followed by exhilaration. Dove. My skin was looking bad. I was feeling sad. मैंने Dove लगाया, लोगों ने कहा अच्छा. That's how they work. They own. So again, you need to own an emotion and build up from there, and that varies from the product you offer, and that can be your own. You don't have to be fake about it. You can be authentic about it.
I think we'll take the discussion offline. There's
Yeah.
our next session lined up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
For the wonderful session. The few takeaways that